Hello, everyone, and welcome to What is Mapbox Studio? My name is Jessie Dang. I'm on the marketing team here at Mapbox, and I'll be your moderator. Today's speaker is Amy Lee Welton. Amy Lee is our Senior Experience Design Lead, and she's going to talk about Mapbox Studio, a powerful online app for designing custom map styles. Before I hand it over to her, I have a couple of items. First, this is being recorded and will be available on demand and accessible through the same link that you're using now. Next, we'd love to hear from you. So if you have a question for Amy Lee, please tweet it with hashtag #BuildWithMapbox. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. So with that, Amy Lee, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessie. And hi, everyone. So as Jessie said, my name is Amy Lee, and I'm the Experience Design Lead at Mapbox and also Senior Cartographer. I was on the cartography team for quite some time and love to share map design skills with folks on Twitter a lot. So if you have any questions or anything like that after the event, feel free to hit me up. So today we're going to talk about essentially what is Mapbox Studio. We're going to also cover what it's for, who it's for, examples of how other teams are using custom maps in Mapbox Studio. And then we're also going to discuss vector maps within Mapbox Studio, which includes vector data and map styles. And then finally, we're going to talk about customization with Mapbox Studio. So we're going to go over the plug and play core maps that we provide within Studio. We're going to talk about the data that's provided, the vector tiles. We're going to talk about designer styles that folks from the Mapbox team make ever so often for you all to share and use within Studio and kind of like learn how we've styled maps and use them and kind of fork them and play with them and tweak them. And then finally, I'm going to share a special map that I've made very recently and talk a little bit about that process as well. So Mapbox, as you guys probably know, but just to give you an overview, Mapbox unlocks the traditional geospatial information system workflow and democratizes map making for teams that are building for brands, products, and apps with location. Mapbox Studio specifically allows teams to build elegant, considered mapping experiences for their end users. So what Studio unlocks really is that customization and that specialization that you might need for giving your users context and making your apps really, really have a good experience that works with your brand. So we're going to talk about a couple of examples here. Lonely Planet is one awesome brand and example, and they have a really good modular design system. They have like a style UI kit with widgets, and all these elements can be customized, and their brand is very narrative, almost book-like, gorgeous photography, individual entries and moments that their users would like to add. And they also kind of lead with place and nostalgia or wanderlust, give people the opportunity to explore where their next exotic adventure will be. So the way that they use Mapbox Studio is they have a map within their app that's, barely customized, but really, really blends well with the way that users experience it. And so they allow users to kind of add information about places that they've been, places that they want to go as well, using the maps to just work together with that aesthetic and indicate the POIs. So as you can see here, they have like a gentle touch that works really well with the rest of the brand and these points of interest that people are able to add. Ookla is another Mapbox user that does some interesting stuff with their style. They essentially are an internet performance and diagnostic company, and their brand is really fast, it's simple, it's relatable, it's really all about the data and the performance of that, and they want to be able to allow their end users to customize and look at their data as well. So what we're seeing here with their map style is that they really want to have a more subdued style. It's a lot more reductive and light. They really want the data to shine. They let their end users pick between different data speed test coverages, And the performance is really a big driver for Ookla. And so what they do is they really go in and kind of take out layers to make sure that their maps are much more performant. And so that's an example of optimization. Vice News is another client of ours. They really have kind of a bare bones, edgy and bold, authoritative brand. And with their news segments, they use maps oftentimes as a visual break and to also provide context. Their team also has, as you can see, a very limited color palette, pretty much black and white, and the imagery plays a lot of a story in there. And they're doing things for broadcast as well. So this is an example of kind of like a map that they've created within Studio, and they have this animation element as well, a very simplified look of boundaries and edges to kind of, as I said, go along with some of their news segments, but another example of customization. Wove is a product and a company that actually wants festival goers to be able to focus on having fun, and rather than wasting their time kind of trying to navigate to the different events, and make it easier for people to meet their friends and really just kind of have a nice experience with real-time location and the entertainment and activities available. They do multiple different festivals, and they have a really interesting design system for designing the apps for the festivals and also the maps. The maps are extremely custom. They even create their own custom data. They're creating 3D elements and 2.5D elements as well within their map styles. And they're really, really pushing the envelope in the element of customization and kind of having that game-like fantasy world feel for their designs. Very playful, but not too outspoken. And, you know, trying not to make it too dull and repetitive while remaining on brand for the festivals that they're designing their maps for. So this is a great example of really pushing that customization. So now we're going to talk about Mapbox Studio itself. You've seen kind of some of the examples of what people have created, and within Studio, you're able to manage and optimize and design this map data that you have. And so this is the interface, and on the left side, you can see all these different layers that you're able to add to the map. And the layers essentially are going one over the other, that are starting like with water layer, and then land, and then administrative boundaries, and then roads. And you're able to customize almost every element of those things directly. So these are the three things that Studio allows you to do, Mapbox Studio specifically. You can create data sets, and essentially the data sets are maintainable. You can upload CSV and custom data and plot points, and then save that. You also are able to create tile sets, and so if you want to upload a shape file, or if you want to pull in a data set that you've been working on as a tile set, you can do that as well in Studio. And then finally, you can create map styles, which we've already talked about. So the style editor allows you to essentially paint all of this data that you have created or that we've provided. So vector maps are essentially the kind of crux of Mapbox Studio and the Mapbox maps that we have. And what you need to know about this is that essentially with vector maps, the maps are not pre-baked. They're dynamic, they're changeable, and they're drawn in real time. And that's what vector maps essentially affords to us. And so with them being drawn in real time, they also can be redrawn and altered with code in real time as well. And they're also code-based themselves. So within Mapbox Studio, under the hood, a style.json file is being written for you, and that's something that you can pass on to your mobile or web developer to implement in an application. So vector maps are made of three parts. The first part are the vector tiles. And so this is the backbone and the framework for everything that's possible with styling. So first, you must have the data to style. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later when I show you the special style that I've been working on. But essentially, the vector tiles are points, lines, and polygons that make up the planet. And so you can add your custom data as well to the Mapbox provided data, but all this data is available on various zoom levels. So if you're looking at the first zoom level, you're able to see kind of like a global aspect, like all of the data in the world. And then as you start to zoom in closer to the map, you see more detail, like street level detail and road networks and that type of thing. So this is the next part of this three-part of vector maps, which essentially is the drawn element. So this is what's going to be drawn in your browser or on your device. This allows you to, this changes as you start to zoom in. You're starting to see more data and more information. And this is specified with RGL style spec. And there's lots of JSON code that's being written on the back end, as you can see here. On the side, that is the style.json. So as you're designing something in Mapbox Studio, you're able to access the data that we provide and add your own, add that styling layer over it, and then finally that code is then available to you to pass on to your developer or to build out into an application. So a little bit about what is already available when you open Mapbox Studio. So when you open Mapbox Studio, essentially what you're getting is our core styles. And so we have Mapbox Streets, we have Mapbox Outdoors, we have Light and Dark. We also have a basic style, and we have navigation day and navigation night, both preview and guidance as well. And so you can take any of these map styles out of the box and you're able to put them right into your application. And you really don't have to make any changes to them. You also can use them as a starting point to start to look at how we on the cartography team have styled our layers, styled our information to make sure that the context is appropriate at different zoom levels. So this is a good resource to start learning about and understanding kind of how some decisions are made, what visualization is someone can achieve by different styling preferences. So this is looking at that data that I was talking about. So this vector tile data is what we provide within Studio is Mapbox street data, Mapbox terrain data, and also Mapbox traffic data. And what you're able to see, we also have a satellite layer, and we also have a terrain DEM layer, which has a lot more detail on contour and hill shading as well. And what you're able to do with this vector tile data is curated from OpenStreetMap and a few other open source data points. And we also have a reference manual that is really good, that was really helpful to kind of break down every type and classification of this data. But as we start to zoom in this animation, you're seeing that, you know, from a national level, you're able to see states and outlines of the boundaries of states. And as you start to zoom in, you're starting to see the road networks. You're starting to see more points of interest. You're starting to see street detail. And as you get even closer, you're starting to see building footprints as well. And so that was what I was talking about with the level of detail that starts to change as you start to zoom in. And a lot of those decisions are also made to make the vector tiles a lot more performant and work really well on mobile as well. So another thing that ships with Mapbox Studio is custom map styles. So these are some of the styles that are available, but you're able to take some of the custom map styles, designer map styles, we call them, that have been created by the team, and you're able to take a look at some of the decisions that we made within that styling. If there's some kind of look that you want to go for with patterns or with other data elements, you're able to take a look at some of these styles and see how they were created and be able to emulate those. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about customization, and I'm going to talk about a map that I created a while ago called LA Terrain. And this was inspired by a recent trip from DC to LA. And I've flown many times from the East Coast to the Pacific Northwest, but this was my first trip to Southern California. And so passing the Grand Canyon and different reservations, and also just kind of like the Northwest New Mexico and Arizona, I really was enamored with like all of the visuals within the terrain and wanted to make a style that looked a lot like what I was seeing out the window. So this is a video really sped up of animation showing me on this style. So within this map style, creating this in Studio, I'm pulling in the data that is already available within Mapbox Studio. And I started with the outdoors map style. And I went in and did a lot of different tweaks and customization as far as like making sure that the layers for the headers for some of the cities and neighborhoods were styled in a very specific way. So as you can kind of see what's happening here on the screen, I'm going in and I'm looking at this data mode and I'm selecting different points of interest, and I'm doing some filtering too on the left side that allows me to style something very, very specifically. So I think here I'm looking at specifically commercial areas that have a scale rank of less than or equal to 3. And then I'm making other decisions within the data filtering to style those specific types of labels a specific type of way. And again, this style was something that was kind of an inspiration of something that I saw visually, but typography plays a huge part in the customization of a style. And so, as I said, like when you're in Studio, you can go down to the layer, down to the type of data. If you're style, that was kind of like a big labeling there. But you're able to make decisions about, you know, what type of font you want to have, what type of specific styles that you want. You might not want to have as much specificity, but it is all available to you there in Mapbox Studio. Another thing that I'm doing with this style is I'm using a satellite layer in the background. And so as you start to zoom in, you're kind of starting to see like, you know, an actual satellite map. And that was by intention. And so I wanted to have more of the vector styling and zoom in and see that detail. And so I was able to pull in that layer and bring the opacity down a little bit so that it didn't show up until we got to a really close zoom around 14 zoom level. And so again, you're able to really, really make some decisions about how you want your information to show up, how contextually your users need to see that and when they would need to see that. And all of that control is available to you within Mapbox Studio. So these are just some other images of the map style itself. I really enjoyed this style, as you probably can tell. And it was also really fun to use the DEM terrain layer that we had to actually show a lot of this hill shade and detail. As you can see, I'm looking at some places with some very, very beautiful hills. And so I really wanted to pull that out with this map style. Also created icons and highway shields for this with one of our tools as well, and really wanted to kind of give it that visual element and control at zoom level what people were seeing with this map style. This is a something that was actually not created in Mapbox Studio, but essentially there are a lot of design decisions that you have to make. And one thing that we've done on the team is tried to identify and create a taxonomy chart. Typically we do this in some sort of a design tool, editing tool. And it's just a good way to see all of the decisions that you've made. So the size of different labels at different zooms, the coloring that you're using. You can also like take a look at some of the hill shading. And so these are all the design decisions that essentially go into a map style if you want to add that much detail within Mapbox Studio. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about briefly is a special custom map style and custom data that I worked on recently. And if you guys are fans of Game of Thrones, as I am, and we are here at Mapbox, this is a map style that I created with Lo Benichu on the team and also Madison Draper. And this style was very unique. We wanted to get something out right around the premiere of Game of Thrones. And so honestly, like Game of Thrones is not it's a very thematic map, and it's also not of this world, if you will. So we couldn't use any of the data that's already provided within Mapbox Studio. We had to get a custom data set. And so in doing that, we had to essentially start over. And so we brought in all custom data that we were able to get from online. And I'm also going to, share with you guys a link to the blog post about this so that you can see where that data came from, and definitely give credit to those folks who made that available. So what you can also see here is that there were a lot of decisions that were made with this custom data. So you can take a look at the select data, and you're able to see these different points. And in green, we see the visible features that I'm filtering to be seen. And then the pink is showing the data that's available on that layer that I'm not showing. And so what I wanted to do here was just show all of the capital cities in different places in the 7 regions here. And also I wanted to be able to show the regions. And so we had to pull in that data. And then there's kind of like a little road network here. And I have like a layer here for the roads. And you can kind of take a look at that data and see that styling. And then I added a casing for the roads as well. I'll kind of turn that off so you can kind of see that on and off. And added some pattern here for the water, a little bit of pattern also for some of the different landscapes. So there's like a mountain, a landscape, not the mountain character, but that kind of like that type of terrain. There's also some forest terrains as well, which I added and had a slightly different styling here. And as I kind of move this around, you can start to see that you're able to go in here and change that color and make those elements however you want them to be. I also used some custom fonts here for like the capital cities, pulled some fonts in, and was able to kind of recreate that look of the Game of Thrones with this style. And it was really fun, and it was all custom data, so I wasn't using anything that was already provided, and had some help, as I said, from the team. So the other thing I wanted to show really quickly was the blog post for this. And like I said, I'm gonna share this, but this is something that we, created to kind of share with fellow fans of Game of Thrones, and also to just have a little bit fun with Mapbox Studio. And so you can actually click on this link and add that style directly to your Mapbox account. And it'll just open up in your account, and you can start to play with it. And also you can download the files if you choose, but the files are already available in the style. So yeah, definitely check that out. Yeah. So to kind of continue on this, the last thing we have is our nice little question slide. So thank you so much again for your time. And if you guys have questions, please tweet them to #BuiltWithMapbox, and I would love to answer some.
Great, thanks, Amy Lee. We do have a few questions to start. First one is, how do you know what data layers are available to style your map?
Yes, okay, that's a great question. Mapbox provides a vector tile spec, and this is also a link that we can share, but essentially to the vector tile spec, and it outlines a little bit of information about the vector tiles, but it also shows you different fields that are available. If you click on this layer reference here, it shows you all of the layers that are available and the different classifications and values that are available to you there. So for example, let's look at the land use layer. So within land use, we have this as a polygon, and there's some classifications here. And so we have like airport, cemetery, that type of thing. And if you were to go into a style, and I don't really have this in this style, but if you were to go into a style and add a layer, you can choose that layer, and you also can select that layer, and it will give you more information about that layer. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and select a layer here, and I'm seeing directly in Studio all of the different classifications that are available to me. So here on the left side, I see that I have a capital within place labels, I have a class type, there's also filter rank, there's some different naming conventions that are available to me as well, and symbol rank. So when I go in and select that layer to create a style with it, I'm able to either filter by those different elements of the layer. In the filtering, when you click on that, it gives you some hints there as well. So you can say, I want to just only have like the German name for these things. And you're also able to then go in and make choices about the styles that you're going to create for that.
Are there lateral 3D views available?
There are. You are able to go in and make like kind of change the tilt and be able to kind of view the map style in different ways. Oh, I added something to that that's not very beautiful. Let me turn that off. But yeah, you're able to tilt and move the map as much as you want. There is 3D data that's available that you can create building types and add the 3D height information for them. There isn't anything for this example, but there are. And let me look up Mapbox building. 3D. This is a really good example of kind of these 3D buildings that you're able to create. So you can pull in the data for from Mapbox that has 3D building information. It didn't show up until you're kind of zoomed in. I think it's at least maybe zoom 12 or so, maybe 14, but you start to kind of zoom in and you're able to see this building height. You also can add 3D models directly, and so, which would be great for the Game of Thrones map, right? Definitely go download it, and if you have some 3D models that you want to add to the Game of Thrones map, add them and tweet at us and let us know so we can check them out. But as you can see here in this example, someone was able to bring in a 3D model that they created with 3JS, and were able to add this directly into their map style. So that's definitely something that you can do.
Great. And what's the best way to share this map or my maps with other people on the team?
Oh, yeah. That's a great question. So the best way to share, and we actually shared this a lot as we were working on it, but the best way to share is to go into your styles area, and you're able to click on the share and use button here, and it gives you the share URL. You also can control if it's public or private. If you make it public, then you'll be able to share it directly with folks. But if it's private, you can still share some of the information, but you won't be able to share it to someone's account. And then with the use button here, there's other kind of options for you to be able to share some of that as well. You can grab your access token, the style URL. It tells you, like, if you're doing it for iOS or for Android or for Unity, how to share. And if you want to just literally share the files, what you do here is you go to this little hamburger here, you download the files directly. And when you download those files, you're going to be able to unzip them. And then what you're going to see essentially is a folder with your map style. It also has your map style information, and this is that style JSON file. It also includes all the icons, and it includes all the fonts. And so what you would do is you would create a new style, and you would upload that style.json. So let me see, in my downloads folder, I have, let's see, my modify, there we go. Okay, so I have my style.json right there. So I'm gonna open this, and then that's gonna allow me to open that file directly. And the only other thing that you need to make sure that you do is you upload all of the SVG images. So you just navigate to that location, you collect those icons and select them, and you upload them, and then they're gonna be available as well. So if you're sharing it with someone, you need to make sure that you go into the directly into the style page and download that whole folder and that zip folder, and then send it along to them and tell them to update and upload all those elements. But great question.
Great. Looks like we are out of questions and out of time. So if you would like to join us for the rest of the Build with Mapbox webinar series, you can sign up at mapbox.com/live. Tomorrow's webinar is the same time. It is Build Customized Solutions to Your Transportation Challenges with Navigation. I hope to see you there, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. Bye.